When it comes to investing in real estate here in Utah, there's a couple of very important things that you need to know when running your numbers to see if a property makes sense. I'm an investor myself, and I've worked with dozens of investors over the years, and that's a part of the business that I actually really truly love because I've seen firsthand how real estate can change your life when it comes to an investment perspective and how it can be such a beneficial investment tool when it comes to building that long-term wealth. So in this video, I want to talk about where investors are buying, what they're looking for, and what you should be looking for if you're an investor in this market. Now, we're going to be talking about investors who are looking strictly for investment property. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about this little subsection of people who are looking for a place to live in themselves, but then also rent out part of the house, whether to roommates or in a separate unit, such as like a duplex where you live in one side and rent out the other. We're going to talk about those people as well and give you some ideas on what you should be looking for and what type of areas you should consider, price ranges, and all of that. So with that being said here, we're going to jump in my screen. But before we do so, as always, guys, my name is Cody Steck, your favorite Utah realtor. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate here in Utah, or of course invest in real estate, I would love to be your go-to guy when it comes to that. My information is here on the screen. Please reach out to me. You can call, text, or email anytime. And as we jump into this, make sure to check out the newsletter in the description box below. All right, so jumping into this, let's take a look at Salt Lake City. So where are investors buying? Well, when it really comes down to it, there's going to be investors who buy in every single area out there. It's really hard to say, hey, investors are only buying in this area or only buying in that area. That's just not what's going to happen. You're going to have people who buy in one area or another for whatever particular reason. However, there are going to be areas that are going to be more popular among investors for a number of different reasons. Now, when it comes to Utah, the other thing that you have to consider is that Utah, especially over the last couple of years, has really become an appreciation type of market. I've seen properties appreciate $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in just the last couple of years, despite throwing off very little cash flow when it comes to that property. Now that interest rates have gone up even higher, it has become increasingly difficult to find cash flow here in Utah unless you're investing a very large portion of the purchase price as a down payment. So let's talk about some of these areas and what people are looking for. Now, you can find some cash flow, but there are going to be other areas where you're going to find no cash flow and you're going to be looking for strictly an appreciation type of play, or at least holding real estate that's going to hold its long-term value, and you won't really have to worry about the value diminishing if the market goes down. So let's take a look at this. I want to jump in over here and talk about some of where some of my properties are located. Now, I like investing for cash flow. I like to have that monthly cash flow coming in every single month so that when I get that rent, I can pay off my mortgage, I can pay my expenses, I can pay for everything that comes along with that property, and then hopefully still put a little bit of money in my pocket each and every month. The areas that are going to be good for that are going to be mostly on the west side of the city. Now, these are going to be areas that you would classify as kind of a C-class neighborhood or a maybe even a B-class neighborhood, potentially where you can find this. But along the west side of Salt Lake, so you've got Salt Lake City right here. Over here, you're going to have West Valley City. You're going to have Magna. Ignore some of these other things like Arthur and Alpine Meadows. No, not sure what those are, but you've got West Valley City right here. You're going to have Magna over here on the west end. You're going to have Kearns, and you're going to have Taylorsville. These are going to be very popular sites for investors. You're going to find a handful of duplexes in these areas. Triplexes and even fourplexes can be common here in these areas as well. And as you start to move south, those are going to kind of phase out, right? They built a lot of those like in the 70s and the 80s, but they haven't really built that many of them in recent times. You can find some duplex and fourplex listings out here in Harriman, but to be honest, they're just so incredibly expensive that they really do not make sense, even from a cash flow perspective or appreciation. So I'm going to kind of rule those out just because they are so incredibly expensive. So this is really where you're going to find a lot of your cash flowing properties in Salt Lake City. Now let's zoom out a little bit and take you down here to Provo. Again, when you're looking in these older areas, that's where you're going to find most of your duplexes, your triplexes, your fourplexes. Those are the types of properties that most investors are looking for when it comes to building a portfolio, looking for cash flow, and trying to, build this long-term wealth that we're talking about. Now, of course, you can do a rental property or have a rental property with a single family home or a townhome, but the numbers are not going to be quite as good, and it's not really built or set up for that type of opportunity. So I generally encourage people to look in these older areas between American Fork up here on the north end, Pleasant Grove, Linden, Orem, and Provo. This is where you're going to find a lot more of these duplexes. Now, the prices here are going to be elevated and rents are actually going to be lower. So when you look at it from a strictly numbers standpoint, the numbers here in Utah County are not quite as good because people are going off of an appreciation play. I don't know what it is, but unfortunately, prices are extremely high in these areas and rents are extremely low. And that just really throws off that balance. I don't know why it's this way. Maybe there's a lot of investors who own property here who are unaware of what market rents should be, or they're just very nice to their tenants or whatever it might be. And, sometimes the numbers just don't make sense. However, if you can find a property here in one of these areas, you're going to have a property that's going to be very good for the long term, right? You're going to have something that's going to appreciate in value over the long term. If you hold it for 5, 10, 15 years, eventually it's going to start kicking off that cash flow that you're looking for and will make a very good investment. So I would definitely consider buying in this area. I do not have any personal properties here in this area, but if something did come up that made sense, I would definitely go for it just because it's such a good area. This is definitely going to be considered more like B- or B class neighborhood. So I would definitely consider investing there if the right property came up. If you're an investor yourself, I think that's definitely worth considering. Let's jump up here. We're going to take a look at Davis and Weber County. Now, there's a lot of investors who will invest in Ogden, which is going to be your main city up north. I think most everybody's kind of heard of Ogden. Ogden is going to be a very old city. There's lots of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and even just a lot of homes that have been converted into these investment properties. So you can find a lot of opportunities there. Prices are down, rents are up, so it might look very attractive from a cash flow perspective. However, you do have to be careful because when it comes to Ogden, typically you're dealing with a lower quality neighborhood or class of tenant in these areas. Now, that's not me saying, hey, stay away from it or anything like that. Just know that when you're dealing with like an A+ tenant, right, that tenant's going to be very good. They're going to pay their rent on time every single month. They're not going to cause you any issues. They're going to be good, quality tenants that you're going to want. The person who's renting that type of property is going to command a standard of living that's very high. And generally speaking, that property is going to have to be worth a lot of property, right? We're talking about luxury listings here. We're talking about properties that these high income earners generally are looking for and kind of these A-class tenants. However, on the flip side of that, you're going to have, kind of your C-class tenants who, maybe miss a rent payment here or there, or they have they need a lot of repairs because the property's older or it's at a lower price point or something like that. And that's kind of just the reality of the situation. So you're generally going to be dealing with that more here in Ogden. Definitely kind of like a C-class neighborhood for the most part. You can find some areas that are nicer where you might get to a C+, a B- or something like that. So you do kind of have to be careful in my opinion. I don't invest in Ogden again, mostly just because I can find better opportunities closer to where I live, where the numbers are still a little bit better. And I also personally don't love working with properties that are very old. I generally try to keep all of my properties from about 1970 or newer. Anything older than 1970, it has to be a really good deal for me to invest in it. Just because the opportunity cost can be very high when you're dealing with lots of repairs and whatnot. So Ogden, another great area. If you're looking for cash flow, Ogden's probably one of your best markets for cash flow right now. So I would definitely recommend that. If you're a cash flow investor, look in Ogden, as long as you're willing to put in a little bit of work fixing up these properties or collecting rent or anything like that, there will be some good opportunity there. Now, let's talk a little bit about where people are investing at for appreciation. There's a lot of properties out there that are going to be extremely expensive. Even with 20, 30, 40% down, these properties might just barely break even. So generally the people who are looking for this appreciation type of property are coming into the deal with either a very large amount of cash that they've just had in the bank, or they're selling a property through a 1031 exchange. They're trying to save on their taxes. They're trying to roll those taxes over and just purchase this new property and defer those taxes is the property word I should use, and put a significant amount of cash down into that new deal where it still makes sense for them, right? Because the alternative to that is if they sell the old property, now they have to pay tax on whatever gains they have, and that could be a huge hit. So they're willing to take a lower return just to move the money into a new deal. So looking at this, Provo, again, even though you can find a little bit of cash flow here, there are some nicer properties here on the east side that people will invest in that you can find some pretty good deals where you're going to be investing for appreciation. The other area that I want to mention here, which is really important, is going to be basically anything in the downtown market. Again, you can find a lot of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, or even bigger units here in these areas. And it's very strictly going to be a appreciation type play, right? I mean, you can find some cheaper duplexes between like 500 and 700,000, but for the most part, these duplexes in this area are going to start at like 800 to a million, maybe even 1.2 million. And then they'll go up from there depending on what the rents are and how many units there are as well. So property here is very expensive. When you look at it on a cash flow basis, it really just doesn't make sense. You're really kind of investing, hoping that you can take that $1 million property and turn it into $1.2 million in just a couple of years. I actually have a number of clients who've bought in this area and they've seen their property values go up, like I said, $200,000, $300,000 in just a couple of years. And that's just kind of where the market's at for what we're seeing here. So if you're looking to invest for appreciation, investing in the big city is definitely a safe play, at least in my opinion. Again, for me, I'm not quite there yet in my own investing career, so I'm not looking for that type of play. But at the end of the day, I'll take a deal as long as it makes sense, as long as there's opportunity to purchase a property, put a little bit of love into it, and then go ahead and sell it one day down the road and make a little bit of money. I'm always up for that personally. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This was just a video designed to give you an overview of where investors are buying, what people are looking for, and to kind of just get a better sense of the market overall. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you're looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate, please reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. I love hearing from you guys, and I cannot wait to hear from you when you do reach out. My information's here on the screen. Make sure to share this video with another friend, a family member, maybe a spouse who's interested in investing, and don't forget to check out the newsletter in the description box down below before you go. With that said, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.